There are not really many levels out there that I would say were essentially set for success from the very start. However, I would say that Duality is an exception, since it was pretty much destined to succeed from the moment the idea for it was born. Look, I can't think of another level out there that had everything it needed to succeed from the moment it was conceptualized. Duality, from the start, had all that makes a good level, and it managed to execute its ideas well to create the masterpiece we know it as today. Alright, now that sounds a little confusing. What I'm trying to say is that from the start, Duality had all the ingredients and the perfect formula to create a successful level, and it managed to stick to that formula so well that it ultimately ended up becoming the great level we know it as today, so it was essentially destined for success from the start. Having an original gimmick or concept in your level really makes it stand out, but Duality takes this a step further. I'm sure we all know I am referring to the fact that Duality is a mega collab where each part was built by two creators, which isn't really something we've seen before. However, despite being original, it also symbolizes something, thus giving it a more special purpose. Duality represents the word collaboration to the fullest extent. A typical collab does not require the cooperation that it takes for two creators to build a single part. The creators of each part had to work together, much more so than if they were to just build a part on their own. Duality's gimmick symbolizes this, as it represents true collaboration in Geometry Dash to the greatest extent. What I'm trying to say is that having an original concept in your level is cool, but having an original concept that actually represents something like an idea means so much more, which will have that concept be remembered in the long term. There are not many other levels with original concepts or gimmicks that represent something so important, that finding a level to use as a comparison is quite the challenge. Nevertheless, I think one level that represents something much greater is Save As by Pack. Save As is a level with a very important message behind it. It is meant to symbolize the stages of Alzheimer's, which is a brain disorder that destroys memory as well as the ability to think. Before Save As, I never really thought too much of Alzheimer's, but this level raised awareness on the disorder, and now I think of it much differently. Like Duality, Save As represents something much greater outside of the game. I would even say that what Save As achieved is far beyond what Duality represents. Not to say that what Duality represents isn't also meaningful, it is just that what Save As symbolizes extends much further beyond the game. What I want you to take away from this section is that there is a difference between making an original level and making an original level that stands for something. Duality not only uses an interesting concept, but the level as a whole represents teamwork and true collaboration. Creators didn't just build on their own, but they had to work together, which means a whole lot more than just a usual collaboration. If we continue to compare Duality to Save As, something Duality succeeds at more is having a more clear theme. While Save As's theme isn't completely invisible, without context it can be a little hard to determine. Something we discussed in my Castlemania video was the idea of showing and not telling. Upon playing a level, players should be visually greeted with exactly what your level is about. If your level is themed around a jungle, your level should, well, you know, look like a jungle. In Duality's case, while there isn't a clear theme, there is a very clear gimmick, being the idea on how two creators collaborate on the same part. One way Duality achieves this is by how it uses its colors. Each creator's contribution in a part is using their own color, making it clear as to who did what. This also clearly visually tells the player exactly what Duality represents. It is very hard to miss it. I know this sounds super obvious, but surprisingly there are actually tons of levels that don't really make it clear as to what they are about. Cold Sweat is another level that we've discussed on this channel before, and in that video I mentioned how it used a super unique theme, being that of a fever dream. However, something I didn't really say was that this theme really isn't super obvious. I mean, you can obviously tell that something is up with the level, but I find that its theme is pretty hard to catch. Not sure if I should blame the level though, since, after all, the theme of a fever dream is very abstract. But I think this is something to consider. Upon looking at Cold Sweat, without context, I don't think I could see the theme. Now in Cold Sweat's case, it isn't too big of a deal, since the theme isn't too relevant to the level. But in Duality's case, the gimmick it uses plays a very important role in the level, so separating parts the way it did using colors was a very smart move. Likewise, something else that is cool to mention is that the colors also do a good job at fitting the idea of, well, Duality, the level's name. The colors used typically contrast each other, furthering that dual color scheme the level goes for. While this isn't too important to the level's central theme or message, it is still something cool to consider. Duality does a fantastic job at visually showing the player exactly what it is about. Once again, this seems super obvious, but it isn't hard to completely lose track of the core purpose of your level and fail to show it. At all times, Duality is visually showing you the collaboration between creators, and it is in most parts incredibly clear. Just look at the first part, you literally cannot deny that it sums up the entire level incredibly well. It features 2 creators, and their sections are clearly visually separated via the color scheme. So remember to make sure that your level's theme or purpose is visually evident and impossible to miss. I know Viper said that getting creators for this was harder than usual, but the level still features a wide variety of well-known creators. I mean, I have at the very least heard the names of each of these creators before. Now, having a famous creator join your collab is something, but having literally every member be at least somewhat well-known around the community really means something much more. Viper is lucky to have a handful of well-known and talented creators, so much so that he was able to execute his vision for the level, even if it did take a while. As I just quickly mentioned, not only are these creators well known, but they are also very talented. They are also around the same quality. What I mean is that there really isn't any weak links in the chain. Each part in the level holds up alongside all the rest. One way a level can be brought down as a whole is if there happens to be one part that has a notable quality drop when compared to the rest. Oftentimes this is the thing that can prevent a good collab from becoming a great one, but sometimes it is unpreventable. For most collab hosts, getting creators is sometimes a hassle, so you may need 1 or 2 parts to fill a level that may have some notable quality drops. However, Viper happens to be in a position where he can access a team of talented and well-known creators. This is actually the main reason why so many other Viper levels succeed. Levels like Digital Descent, Cybernetic Crescent, Altair, and a lot of others are great examples of this. Despite not really having super obvious themes, they have a super talented and well-known team of creators behind them to compensate. Now, for your own levels, it can be rather difficult to acquire such a team. However, this is still something you should consider. Perhaps build more than one part if you'd rather do that than get a lower quality creator, or extend parts as a whole, or even shorten the level if you don't think you can get enough high quality creators. After all, the quality over quantity rule applies to levels as well. So, Duality pretty much had everything it needed to succeed from the very beginning. From the original idea and purpose, the visual demonstration needed from the start to convey this theme, and the talented team of creators behind it, the core base and fundamental ideas in which this level was built on was absolutely perfect, making this level destined for success and the masterpiece we know it as today. So this is probably not a level you expected me to discuss, since it is pretty irrelevant now. However, I can't help but notice just how lucky this level was. It had literally everything a level could dream of having, and the team executed it perfectly. This is one of those levels that I would say to be very near perfect. But nevertheless, let's take a deeper dive into my points and discuss the applications they have to potentially make your level as destined for success as Duality was. Okay, but quickly before that, well, I didn't specifically say this in any one point. The overarching theme of this video is that everything we discuss should be planned very early in the level's development, before even a single block is placed. This was obviously the case for Duality, as this level is built around these core fundamentals. So now, firstly, your level should have an ultimate original idea, but that also represents something. Duality was lucky enough to have an idea that has a bigger meaning, and honestly, aside from Save As, I can't really think of many other levels that actually represent a greater idea. While levels like, say, Bloodlust represent things such as the journey to verify a new top 1, that doesn't stretch too far beyond the game. While the same could be argued for Duality, I would say that the theme of cooperation and teamwork it shows so well is an idea beyond just the game. Secondly, you should make this theme and purpose very clear. A secondary thing Duality went for was having each creator's contributions to a part be visually separated by using mainly one color or style each. This makes the concept Duality is based on especially clear to the player. I don't think I need to explain why this is a good thing, but if you really want some reasons, it can make your level stand out and seem like a whole lot more than it is, while also being less forgettable. Thirdly and finally, Duality, from the start, was fortunate enough to have a wide variety of talented creators to choose from. What I mean is, Duality had a super good team of creators behind the level, so it is undoubtedly going to turn out exceptionally well. While getting creators of these calibers can be difficult, if done, it can lead to a very good end product. I know this is also very obvious, but it is something that not every level is fortunate enough to have. So those are the reasons as to why Duality was destined for success from the start. All it had to do was execute it well, and because of the team behind it, that was also pretty much destined. Duality is a very rare case since, unlike so many other levels, from the very start, this level showed absolutely no signs of failing, which is very rare in levels nowadays. So, how do you feel about Duality? Do you agree with me, or do you think something else? As always, feel free to let me know what you think in the comments. If you want to, please consider subscribing if you like this video and my other content, as it is a great support to my small channel. So as always, I hope you enjoyed and have a great day, as always.